that Daniel Dubois has offered Jake Paul a shot at the IBF heavyweight world title. Well, could you see that fight happening? Could you see Jake Paul getting in the ring with Dubois?
Jeff, I mean, I know the boy's got a great imagination, but I don't know what planet he's on, mate. He's just got to be on Mars or somewhere like that to even think about something like that. I mean, listen, it couldn't be sanctioned anyway, that's first and foremost.
Jake Paul's controversial victory over Mike Tyson has created a significant stir in the boxing world. The 58-year-old Tyson, who is well past his prime, failed to make an impact in the fight, and many believe the spectacle was little more than a cash grab. Paul's unimpressive performance led to the expected fallout, criticism, skepticism, and, predictably, fighters from all corners of the sport calling him out.
He mentioned me before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch's talking about himself, he's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finances. But I'll take the payday, of course I will. And I'll end Jake Paul with one punch.
One of the most notable challengers is Daniel Dubois, the IBF World Heavyweight Champion, who has thrown his name into the mix, urging Paul to face him in the ring. But will Paul take the challenge, or will he continue his trend of fighting older or smaller opponents?
You called out Canelo in the ring. Gervonta Davis just posted that he would beat the brakes off of you if you guys fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. Let's run it. Like, I'd be super, super down. I don't know if
Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
What about you and Conor McGregor? Are you interested in that?
Yeah, he'll never do that, though. He knows. He knows way.
The fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson last Friday was highly anticipated, as millions around the world tuned in to watch the event unfold. With over 70,000 fans in attendance at AT&T Stadium in Texas and more than 60 million people watching the Netflix livestream, it was an extraordinary spectacle. However, the fight itself left much to be desired. Tyson, despite his legendary status, looked slow and fatigued, throwing just 97 punches throughout the 8 rounds, a stark contrast to his prime when he was known for overwhelming opponents with his speed and power.
We saw on Friday, late Friday into Saturday morning, exactly what Jake Paul against Mike Tyson was all about. It was eminently forgettable, as I said myself on social media. I thought I get duped. I was one of many. It was eminently missable, and I wish I had missed it.
Jake Paul, meanwhile, won the fight in a manner that left fans underwhelmed. His performance was uninspiring, and although he earned a unanimous decision victory, the bout seemed more like a spectacle than a legitimate boxing match. Paul, who is nearly 30 years younger than Tyson, seemed to show respect for the former heavyweight champion, but that respect translated into a cautious approach rather than the decisive finish many expected. Tyson showed moments of energy early in the fight, but as the rounds progressed, it was clear that the former champion's stamina had diminished. It's been widely speculated that Paul, perhaps out of respect for Tyson's age, wasn't willing to press the issue, and some questioned if he could even knock out Tyson when the opportunity presented itself.
Around round 3, Mike seemed to be running out of gas a little bit. You were working the jab really well. At any point, did you start to take your foot off the gas just a little bit because you noticed he was tiring out?
Yeah, definitely.
While Paul's victory over Tyson may have solidified his status as a name in the sport, it certainly did not bolster his reputation as a legitimate boxer. He's been criticized for handpicking opponents who are either too old or too inexperienced to pose a real challenge, and Tyson's age and physical decline were no exception. Following the win, Paul faced immediate backlash, and within days, many top-level boxers began calling him out. Among them was Daniel Dubois, who wasted no time putting Paul's name on his radar. The problem child has shockingly expressed an interest in facing the heavyweight champion, claiming that he will be in touch with Most Valuable Promotions co-founder Nakisa Badarian. On X, he said, "Man been boxing for 12 years, has over 100 fights between amateur and pro, and fought on my undercard. Ha ha ha. But I'm going to have Nakisa talk to Frank Warren, Dubois' promoter, and get you in line for the throne. Unlike Artur, at least you have a few thousand fans." Dubois, the current IBF World Heavyweight Champion, is no stranger to big fights. His most recent victory over Anthony Joshua was one of the biggest upsets in recent heavyweight history. Dubois knocked out Joshua in the 5th round, successfully defending his title in an impressive display of power. The win established Dubois as one of the premier heavyweights in the world, and since then, he's been widely regarded as one of the top contenders in the division. His jab, which he used effectively to dismantle Joshua, is one of the most powerful in boxing, and his ability to execute a clinical game plan in the ring has earned him respect from critics and fellow fighters alike.
Daniel Dubois would knock Jason Paul into the next life within 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you would think, but we'd like Jake surely now just to go back to YouTubing, which is what he does.
No, I'd like him to go into a proper fighter that's at a certain age and get filled in.
You'd like to see that?
Well, insofar as I'd like to see anything about Jake Paul.
There are significant hurdles in making such a fight happen. For one, Jake Paul is not ranked by any of the major boxing sanctioning bodies. The IBF, for example, has a strict ranking system, and Paul would not be eligible for a title shot without first facing a top-ranked fighter in the heavyweight division. Dubois, who will likely defend his title in February, is set to choose an opponent from the IBF's top 15 rankings. Since Paul is not ranked, it's unlikely that he would be given an immediate title shot, and even if he were, he would need to prove himself against a higher caliber opponent first.
I mean, genuinely, like, everyone's biggest critique is like, fight a pro, fight this person, fight someone your age. So when I say Canelo is the person, then everyone hates on that. But I'm like, all right, sheep, what do you want? Do you want me to fight someone? Like, people just want to see me lose. So wouldn't the best opportunity to see me lose be going up against Canelo?
Absolutely.
People will never be satisfied with my career until I get flatlined.
Frank Warren, Dubois' promoter, has expressed doubts about the fight taking place anytime soon. He indicated that Dubois is likely to face a ranked contender in his next bout and suggested that Paul simply doesn't belong in the conversation when it comes to a title fight. Warren emphasized that Dubois' next opponent would be one of the top 15 fighters in the IBF rankings, further distancing Paul from a potential shot at the title. Additionally, Dubois is not known for taking fights with opponents who lack the necessary credentials, so it seems unlikely that he would be interested in a match with Paul unless there was a significant financial incentive.
Did you know that Daniel was going to call out Jake Paul?
No, I didn't. And I mean, I would, at the very worst, that would be, or the best, it would be probably the worst mismatch of all time.
Do you think it, Frank, diminishes the credibility? Daniel Dubois is a bona fide, legitimate heavyweight champion of the world. Right? May not be the most recognisable yet, but I'm sure if he keeps on going the way he's going, he will be. Do you think in some respect this is not an ideal look? You don't really want him calling out Jake Paul, do you?
Look, if he wants to do it, he'll do it. It won't happen. You know, he's the IBF champion. Jake's not ranked in the IBF. He won't be ranked in the IBF. He's not fought anybody who's ranked in that in the top 10. So it's never going to happen.
Listen, on a serious note, Frank, now that we have you live on Talk Sport, who's Daniel going to fight next?
I hope. I'm meeting him today, actually. I'm meeting him in about an hour, so I'll give it, and we'll see where we go with it. But we're pretty much nearly there to where we need to be. So hopefully we'll get it over the line today, tomorrow, and be ready to announce it.
As the calls for Paul to face more legitimate opponents continue to mount, several boxing figures have weighed in on the situation, offering their opinions on whether Jake Paul is truly ready for a challenge of this magnitude. Tony Bellew, a former cruiserweight champion, was quick to dismiss the idea of Paul fighting Dubois, mocking the entire premise of such a bout. Bellew, who has long been outspoken about Paul's boxing career, criticized the YouTuber-turned-boxer for picking fights with opponents who are either too old, too small, or too inexperienced. He pointed out that Dubois' jab, which played a pivotal role in his win over Joshua, would make short work of Paul, suggesting that the fight would be an easy victory for the heavyweight champion.
Now look, Tony, if these reports are right, that Daniel Dubois has offered Jake Paul a shot at the IBF heavyweight world title, well, could you see that fight happening? Could you see Jake Paul getting in the ring with Dubois?
Jeff, I mean, I know the boy's got a great imagination, but I don't know what planet he's on, mate. He's just got to be on Mars or somewhere like that. I just think, listen, Daniel Dubois is on a whole new level. Daniel Dubois is one of the best heavyweights in the world. He would knock Jake Paul out with a jab. And believe you me, boys, I'm not messing. It would just be an embarrassment. I can't lay any of the blame for Friday night at the feet of Mike Tyson. Boys, we all know, and let's not beat around the bush yet.
Yeah, money.
We're all getting in the ring for 20 million.
Yeah, of course.
Jeff, you know it, mate. So we can lay no blame at the feet of the legend and great that is Mike Tyson.
Meanwhile, Dillian Whyte, another heavyweight contender, has been very vocal about his thoughts on Paul's potential matchup with Dubois. Whyte, who has fought some of the best heavyweights in the world, stated bluntly that if Paul were to face Dubois, he would be murdered in the ring. Whyte acknowledged that Paul has done well to bring attention to boxing, but emphasized that he's simply not ready to face someone as dangerous as Dubois. Whyte's remarks echo the concerns of other fighters who believe that Paul is not yet ready for the challenges posed by top-level boxers.
I like Jake Paul. I like what he's doing for boxing, but this is getting ridiculous now. Obviously, I can understand why Daniel would challenge him, because it'd be Daniel's biggest payday so far. As funny as it may seem, considering he's the world champion, Jake Paul is a YouTuber. It'd be Daniel's biggest payday. I get it. And he'll get murdered. You know, I think he's doing great things for boxing because his undercard's always stacked with real fights, and he's bringing new fans to the game. Fans that's a lot of people don't know who Mike Tyson is. You know what I mean? He's bringing fans that would then go and look up, Google Mike Tyson, see who Mike Tyson is, see Mike Tyson when it's great. Then when you Google one guy, other boxers will pop up, and then these people they'll be non-boxing fans will become casual boxing fans who end up becoming hardcore boxing fans in the long run because they'll start watching fights.
Carl Froch, the former super middleweight world champion, also weighed in with his harsh assessment of Paul's boxing career. Froch, who hasn't fought since 2014, was highly critical of Paul's fight with Tyson, referring to it as a massive anticlimax. Froch suggested that the entire event was little more than a spectacle, and he questioned whether Paul truly had the skills to finish Tyson when given the opportunity. Froch speculated that Paul's performance was lackluster due to his lack of engagement, and he even suggested that Paul's approach was more about respecting Tyson's legacy than proving his own ability. Froch, who himself has been vocal about the need for Paul to face real challenges, believes that Paul's career has been built on hype rather than genuine boxing talent.
Listen, it was an anticlimax. It didn't live up to the expectations of what it was built up to be. I mean, it was crap on it, let's be honest. The fight itself was awful. What happened? What happened in the fight? What happened in the ring? There was no substance. It's like when you're cooking a meal all day, you cook up a nice broth, you put your organic steak mince in, you put your potatoes in, your sweet potatoes are a bit better for you, a bit of vegetables, all your stock, and you're slow cooking it all day. And then at the end of the day, when you dip the spoon in and you have a little sample and it tastes like absolute shit, you think to yourself, what a waste of time that was. And that's what this fight was. Jake Paul didn't really get anything going. He was almost fighting scared. He came into the ring walk, into that big stadium, and what was it, a Chevrolet or a Cadillac? It was a big gas-guzzling American car. It looked good, he looked cool, he looked a bit nervous, but he looked cool in his car. His brother was there, Logan Paul, all the glitz and glam, the music, the pyrotechnics, the whole build-up to this show was fantastic. It was enjoyable. But unfortunately, when the both guys, the reason I'm not talking about the fight, because there's nothing to really talk about. The fight was absolutely hopeless. It was terrible.
Froch also took aim at Paul's previous opponents, including Tommy Fury, who defeated Paul in their much-publicized bout. Fury, according to Froch, is British-level at best, further diminishing the credibility of Paul's victory over him. Froch believes that Paul's entire boxing career has been a carefully constructed facade, designed to maintain his public image rather than showcase any real boxing skill. He also questioned whether Paul's claim of avoiding a knockout out of respect for Tyson was just a convenient excuse for his inability to finish the fight.
Every time he did try and close the gap, Jake Paul backed off, got behind his jab. He threw a couple of shots in there. He did throw a couple of big swings as well at one point. So that's why I have to question. When he said he took his time on Mike Tyson, didn't want to hurt him, didn't want to knock him out, I'm not so sure about that, because he was swinging away at points in that ring. And if some of them shots would have landed, they would have probably hurt Mike Tyson, because he's 58 years old. The fight itself was a massive anticlimax. It was crap. It was a waste of time. I'm glad I didn't stay up late to watch it. All the people that pay good money to be there and watch it, they must be disappointed with that performance. And I'm not taking anything away from Mike Tyson. He's 58 years old. He can only do what he can do. He's got an old body. But Jake Paul put in a shit performance as well. Didn't really try and do much, but it was nice that at the end he paid respect to Mike Tyson.
Despite the constant criticism from all corners of the boxing world, Jake Paul remains defiant. He's consistently stated that his next opponent will be one of the best in the sport, and he even discussed the possibility of facing Canelo Alvarez. Paul admitted that such a fight would be a massive challenge, but he seemed ready to take it on. Carl Froch, however, quickly dismissed the idea, stating that Canelo would easily defeat Paul if they ever fought. Froch believes that Paul is simply not on the same level as a fighter like Canelo, and that the fight would be over before it began.
Everyone's biggest critique is like, fight a pro, fight this person, fight someone your age. So when I say Canelo is the person, then everyone hates on that. But I'm like, all right, sheep, what do you want? People just want to see me lose. So wouldn't the best opportunity to see me lose be going up against Canelo?
Absolutely.
People will never be satisfied with my career until I get flatlined. Then they're going to be happy. So what excuse does the audience have? Does Canelo have when that happens?
For now, it seems that Jake Paul is stuck between a rock and a hard place. He has captured the public's attention and built a significant following, but his critics are growing louder, and the calls for him to face real competition are only getting stronger. While he may continue to entertain the idea of facing top fighters like Daniel Dubois and Canelo Alvarez, there's no denying that his current path is filled with challenges, both in terms of proving his ability and answering the calls of the boxing community. Only time will tell whether Paul is truly ready for the big leagues, or if his boxing career will continue to be defined by spectacle and hype. So what are your thoughts about this? Do let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos for more insights and analysis on the world of boxing.